Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Crayon Central and Eastern Europe webinar called Smooth Cloud Migration. So it's really a pleasure to have you here because today we're gonna go through, within an hour or so, through a very exciting topic, which is about cloud migration. And please note that today's session is going to be recorded, as always, and the recording is going to be available after the session as per your request. Today, it's great to have on this event very experienced subject matter experts, my friends, Marin Frankovic and Milos Kitanovic. So they're going to go through the couple of ideas and topics that are going to help you to understand where from to start and how to embrace cloud, how to actually start migration and on what to focus and how to get it successfully completed. So with that, I would like to actually provide a couple of ideas how at the Crayon we see the project, how it can actually be executed from the beginning and moving forward to the successful completion of it. So let me start moving my slides. And typically, it actually looks from the first glance as a maze. When you actually are in the very beginning of your cloud journey, it's very difficult to understand where from to start, what is important, and what might be the obstacles throughout the path. And that's why it looks like a little bit like a maze, because in the beginning you don't see the straight line to your target. But let's take a look from the another perspective, from another angle, right? Because to me, the association of the cloud migration type of projects typically is something similar like planning of your vacations. Because once it comes to the vacations planning period of time, then basically you have to start thinking in the way, okay, where, first of all, where I would like to go, right? You're basically choosing the destination. Probably you, first of all, selecting the continent where you want to move, right? And then probably you actually investigating exact place, what you want to see, how much time do you want to spend there. And then you also consider, okay, if I know already where I want to go, then the question is how I'm going to move to that location, right? So once I know where to go, then you start planning actually how you're going to reach that place. And then there are multiple options. Either you can go solo, alone, either you can go with a family, with your friends, multiple options. But then the question is how you want to reach that place, right? Via the plane, either by car, either kind of other ways, train, for instance, bus, whatsoever. So multiple options as well. So from that perspective, to me, it's typically very important to start planning. And of course, you're going to have on the road multiple questions like, okay, how to start, what to consider, which cloud platform to choose. And typically, different sides of the organization start thinking about costs. How much it's going to cost to me? What are the dependencies and what the workloads would make sense to move to the cloud? And then some other very important aspects like security, right sizing, governance, operational model appears on the agenda, and those are very important also questions to answer. And of course, scenarios. You have to also think about what are the scenarios that you're going to start with. So you have to choose, right? You have to choose, is this something that would lead you to the business continuity and disaster recovery avoidance, or like some compliance measures you have to actually reach, or some line of business applications that you would like to move to the cloud in order to be more effective, more productive, and more efficient as a and be able to compete with the other competitors, for example, or increase the quality of service that you're delivering to your customers. This is also very important. So how to deal with those questions, and how to make it actually framed, and I think that also it's a very good approach to take and utilize so-called cloud adoption framework. Why? Because this is basically a methodology that would help you to frame and to have very well structured approach towards cloud migration. So there are multiple actually updates of the cloud adoption framework for now, but it starts with the setting the goal and the setting the strategy. So it's very important to stick very close to the business needs. And if you have that already answered to yourself, what is your top objective to reach, and how you want to actually help your business to grow, to be more efficient, then you actually move to the assessment phase. Once you've done assessment, once you already know what exactly workloads you want to move and how much it's going to cost, because this is also very much related to the TCO calculations, then you can actually plan to create the roadmap of your migration, and then move on with the fundamental things like establishing and deploying the cloud platform, which is typically the landing zone. And once you have that done, then you can start pilots and migration. And once you've done migration, of course, very important stage is to get all the workloads that are already migrated, get optimized. And then it starts over again, because this is the cyclic model, which it makes sense to keep in mind. And of course, it would be probably less reasonable to do it alone. So therefore, by reaching out to the Amazon Web Services partners like Crayon, for example, it would make sense then to leverage various programs available from the cloud vendors. Like, for example, in this slide, you see so-called MAP program, or Migration Acceleration Program, available from Amazon Web Services, that might help you to offset your costs for the migration journey. And again, it's very much in line with the cloud adoption framework. And as you can see, it also has very clear stages like assess, mobilize, and migrate and modernize. So this is something that you can leverage, and you actually, my suggestion would be definitely to leverage such a program like MAP. And yes, so this is just a glimpse towards or setting the floor, if you wish, to our discussion that we're gonna continue within an hour or so. And with that, I would like basically to invite my colleague, Marin Frankovic, who is a senior solution architect from AWS, and he's gonna lead you through the lessons learned throughout migration projects, and gonna discuss typical cases and typical issues and challenges that customers or different sizes of organizations meeting throughout the journey. So Marin, the floor is yours. Please unmute yourself. Yes, thank you very much.
Classic error. Thank you, Linus, for this great introduction. So hi all, my name is Marin Frankovic, and I'm a senior solutions architect in AWS, specializing in migrations and modernization. So I'm part of the specialist team that actually does all of this and helps, just as Linus explained in the previous couple of slides. So I do also have a couple of slides that we will go through just to support my narrative, which goes in line with all of what we'll hear today. So one of the most important things, I will just go through three very important things that are part of this migration process and this migration plan to make it as successful and as smooth as possible. So basically what we need to do, we need to have a concrete migration plan after the assessment phase. When you collect all the information about your environment, what you currently have, and what you want to migrate to the selected cloud provider, AWS. Then, of course, we need to build some kind of operating model, as Linus already mentioned. After you move and migrate your resources to AWS, you definitely want to manage it and operate it. So that's something which is super, super important. We see from experience, then usually customers kind of fail on this step because they think once they move it, that's it. Now it works by itself. Unfortunately, it doesn't. So this additional step will definitely cover you that. And as already mentioned, AWS proposes don't do it alone. So you can do it definitely alone if you have in-house expertise. Many customers do not. That's why they are reaching out to partners to help them out in their journey towards the AWS to migrate, to modernize their workloads, and of course to achieve any of their goals that have, be it lower TCO, agility, market reach, or whatever they want to do. So in the first phase, after you basically assess your applications and have your portfolio in some kind of tool, which we and partners provide plethora of different tools that you can do this, we basically detect 3 different things that usually customers do. One of the things is that they learn that there are some workloads that don't do nothing. So they are just standing there, sitting, using resources, actually giving no results. So that sometimes you can retire up to 10% of your infrastructure and basically just turn it off and don't have it anymore because it's not doing anything. Usually between 10 to 20% can be moved to software as a service applications. So basically you can replace your client server applications with some cloud services, complementary cloud services that can then be used and just remove that burden of infrastructure part and managing the infrastructure from you. 2 things that you can do with the AWS, of course, one is the classic lift and shift, which is the easiest way to go. We are just basically uploading your current infrastructure and the applications and services into AWS. In that step, you usually do some optimization, so that lowers the cost. But ultimate goal of any migration project is actually to try to modernize as much as possible, because modernization not only brings the lower TCO at the end, but also enables you as a customer to utilize all other services available within AWS Cloud and to interconnect with those services. And of course, to again lower that administrative effort needed to manage and maintain those services in the cloud. Not to say that then you basically automatically get auto-scaling capabilities, backup, disaster recovery, security monitoring, auditing, and so on. So I wouldn't say that that's not available for somebody who is just doing lift and shift. Of course, it is. We can still monitor and manage those workloads. But once you are tied into the as it's called native cloud services, then there are much more options for you to basically then just use those services, take care of your data, take care of access levels and so on, not to be bothered by underlying infrastructure, cabling, power, networking, and so on. So this is something that we definitely see from our experience, that this is the classic journey when customers decide to move to the cloud. Is first is lift and shift with some slight optimization, and then later on they move to modernized part. Sometimes, of course, some of these will need to be recoded, or something will need to be maybe created from scratch. Again, that really depends on the customer, but we do have tools and experiences, and we have experienced partners also that can help you in that journey. So that's why the title of the presentation, title of webinar, is a smooth migration, because we do know how to make it very smooth. The second step is definitely building the operational model. As I said, this is something that customers usually omit, or they don't think about it. But again, if they use a partner or go with AWS, we will definitely mention it, that this will definitely be part of the customer journey, and they are definitely aware of it. So there are 3 things which you can choose and go with. One is a self-managed, so basically customer does all the operating of the infrastructure services and so on applications by themselves. They have a dedicated IT team that does that. Of course, we provide multiple tools within the cloud that can help you out with that, automate and all the operations, automate security, monitoring, logging, auditing, and so on. If this is not enough for you as a customer, there is a huge amount of third-party tools from the AWS marketplace, which you can then utilize. And of course, if you already have tools that you are used to, you can usually bring those tools in and then use those tools again with the same service. Second option is AWS managed services. If you want to relinquish that operations management duty to somebody else, so AWS has its part of the teams that do that, and then they of course manage landing zones, they address security compliance operations within the cloud, they create automation, there is a certain level of support and so on. And the third option, which also customers go for, is partner managed. So basically you simply ask your existing partner, or we help you find adequate partner for you if you don't have one, to help you out in managing those services. We have more than 100 managed service providers that can definitely help you in that, which are part of the AWS certification program. They're also prone to third-party audits, and they do offer full life cycle services for you. So really, in any direction that you go, as you can see, AWS with partners have you covered in all of these important steps that you are making towards migration to AWS. I would just like to emphasize once more that migration is a huge part of the effort of the whole process, as Lina already showed you that migration is started to program assessment, mobilize, and migrate. And from personal experience, the most time is spent in the first phase assessing when you have collected quality data and put it in some readable format for everyone to understand what you currently have. The second part is also super important, that you understand how will you manage once you move to the cloud, who will do it, will you do it by yourself? Will you ask for help from AWS, or you will ask for your existing or new partner? Because you can have multiple partners, you have a partner for migration, you can have a partner for operating your new cloud environment. As it's already been mentioned, this is a cyclic approach, so you are not finished once you are migrating. There is always something to either modernize, improve, or migrate again. So you always want to be within that circle and to operate it and manage it. So this is super important for you to understand why is this needed. Because at the end, if you don't do it, and if you don't take care of the services that you migrate to the cloud, you will not be happy with the end result after some years. So it's not that cloud will do everything for you and just move it and then it lives forever and ever. You need to take care of it. There is less effort included in certain aspects, but you need to be there present. And if you cannot do it alone, we are here to help you together with our partners. And the third thing, which is also super important, AWS has a clear partner model. So we as a company can definitely offer all these services, but we like to include partners. Why do we like to include them? And what is the reason that we always propose to a customer, please consider, if you do not have a partner, please consider going with a partner in this project. Usually these projects are very complex. There is lots of legacy services applications. There is a lot of code base that maybe needs to be recoded or needs to be totally replaced or retired. There is lots of dependencies between applications that sometimes even the customers do not understand. And that is why we basically propose to the customer, go with the partner. It will be much smoother and easier for you to achieve your goal, to reach the desired business outcome. Once you have defined it, the partners have experience to help you move towards that goal. Not every customer is the same. So usually we can apply many existing templates, experiences from previous engagements, but also again together with partner experience, we can increase that portfolio of knowledge and basically assist you in moving towards the goal. This also reduces the operations cost if you do not have the team that will take care of these operations once you move to the cloud. Then again, partner is there to help you. You yourself do not have to focus your existing IT stuff on cabling, infrastructure, and maybe operating model. They can focus on how to improve your existing business model, how to reach maybe new lines of revenue from migrating to the cloud, how to expand your portfolio of applications or services that you offer to your customers. So then you can focus more on innovating than just managing what you already have. By utilizing partners, by utilizing their vast experience and knowledge, you definitely can reduce the security and compliance risks because partners are certified by AWS to help you in this. So it's not easy to be migrations partner because you need to prove that you can handle these kinds of tasks. So we are not talking of migrating 1 or 2 virtual machines into the cloud. We are talking about 500,000, 2,000, 10,000 virtual machine services and connected applications into the cloud. And then, of course, knowing and having somebody by your side who already done it multiple times with multiple different customer services, applications, verticals, it is immense help. So not only in these complex tasks as migration, but in anything. So if, for instance, if you never change the tire on a car, it's easier to see somebody and how they do it, what are their experiences, what you need to do to learn from them. Because partners will not only help you to do it, so be with you all there, but they will also transfer their knowledge to you. So you will have that also additional benefit from the partner, which will then enable you to build additional skills within your IT teams. So again, partners are not just there to do this one tasks and move away. They are there to help you through the process, through the setting up operating model, governance model, and so on, to transfer that knowledge to you and to make sure that you have successful migration and that you are at the end happy, because all of us, meaning AWS partners, are here for the long game. We are not here just to help you in one day specific tasks and then say, okay, thank you, goodbye, see you when the next project comes on. We will definitely be following you through all the way. So of course, I will call out Crayon as one of those partners. As you can see, this is a partner central page on AWS, and Crayon is definitely experienced partner. Multiple AWS competencies, part of 6 partner programs, more than 200 certifications, more than 100 successful AWS customer launches. So always go with a partner. That's what we propose to everybody, and then the migration path will be very smooth, and it actually may be easy as a piece of cake. So just be smart and select good partner and go with them. With that, Linas, back to you.
Thank you very much, Marian, for insightful presentation. And I like very much that you did mention that the migration is piece of cake, because before this webinar we've been discussing among 3 of us, I mean, Marian, Milos, and myself, that it's a big question. Is this really a piece of cake or not? But of course, it's obviously that with the right subject matter experts connected to the project, it can be more streamlined. But I have a question, Marian, to you with regards of your role. So are you also supporting customers, or how it is actually set up? Do you support customers and partners, or you focus only on the customers? How it is?
Yeah, so that's a good question. My specific team does support customers, but we also have a team dedicated in supporting partners. So there is a partner architect organization, but as you may imagine, we have a limited number of people that can support something. So whenever partner organization needs help, we from a specialist teams jump in and help partners also. So we are there for partners and we are there for customers, because at the end, for us, from our perspective, partner is also customer. We want to make partners happy, and we by that we want to make customers happy. So it's a win-win situation for all of us. So yeah, I will say we support both of them.
And this is very interesting that you did touch right away, because if we're gonna step back a little bit and take a look into the cloud adoption framework, there is still a very important stage which calls assess, right? And in this stage, when it comes again to AWS MAP program, there are multiple activities within that stage, right? And I think one of very important activities are actually knowledge transfer throughout immersion workshops, right? So could you a little bit kind of provide some light or cast some light into that activity?
Yes, so definitely. So usually those activities come out from the migration readiness assessment, so which can be done also by a partner, where we assess where customers assess their readiness to migrate to the cloud. And some of the recommendations can definitely go towards the deploying the immersion workshops. And those immersion workshops are very interesting because they help partners understand how services work and what they can expect from those services during the mobilize and migration phase. And those immersion workshops can also be definitely delivered by a partner, and with hands-on experience that can then transfer that knowledge to the customer, because the customer feels much more at ease when they see what is actually happening, how it is happening, and so on. In practice, many questions that come from customers are usually answered through these immersion workshop, because it's not just a workshop of clicking through the lab exercise, but it's also some kind of experience for the customer. They can ask questions, they can get immediate answers for their possible pain or interest that they see that will be coming in the future with their project.
Okay, thank you very much. And I would like now to invite Milos Kitanovic for the next session. Milos, maybe you can start sharing your screen in order we would see your slides. Thank you very much. And now we're going to focus more about on the partnership and why not to migrate alone, but with a partner. So Milos Kitanovic, Global Cloud Services Technical Pre-Sales at the Crayon Group. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Linus. Thank you, Mari. And thank you everyone for joining us today on this webinar. My name is Milos and I work for Crayon Group, where I take care of our AWS partnership and also AWS pre-sales for our companies throughout the world. And today I will be sharing a little bit of my experience around our migration practice, our migration methodology, what have been our lessons learned in our migrations projects. But before that, I just wanted to highlight the distinctions among AWS partners. So based on AWS books, there's over 100,000 of AWS partner companies worldwide. All of those companies, they have different reach, different markets that they operate in, both in terms of geographical presence, and also in terms of industry verticals that they focus on. They also have different expertise, different areas of expertise, and basically in order to categorize all these partners and make some kind of distinctions to make it easier for the customers to choose the right partner, AWS has developed an extensive set of specializations and competencies. And the AWS partner companies can obtain one or more of these competencies or specializations in order to prove to the customers that they have an elaborate and dedicated practice focusing on a specific area. And this is supposed to make the choice of the partner much easier for the customer. When we talk about competencies, one of the most valued AWS competencies today is for sure the AWS migrations competency. It enables the partners to validate their experience, to validate their approach to AWS migrations projects. And they do so, they validate these facts basically against a set of extensive and detailed controls. So what does an AWS migrations partner, a company that wants to become an AWS migrations partner, what does such a company need to prove? They first of all need to show a number of cases that they have delivered successfully on AWS migrations. All of those cases must have generated a significant AWS consumption on a yearly level. And there are 6 main pillars or 6 main categories where such a partner needs to prove that it's been done by according to the highest standards. For example, the partner must demonstrate that they have been delivered, that the migrations projects have been delivered according to the operational and excellence standards that have been prescribed by AWS, which means that there is automation deployed, there is monitoring, there is telemetry, etc. When it comes to security, security and governance best practices that are prescribed by AWS have to be showcased, such as setting up proper identity and access management, auditing, compliance, encryptions, etc. Reliability is very important, and then a lot of details are required to be shown in this part of the validation. And the migration partner must have shown that they have deployed architectures in the cloud that have been designed with high availability, fault tolerance, and that also backup and restore schemas are in place. Moving on to performance, it's very important that the services that measure application performance are in place, regardless whether the applications are containerized, serverless, or just rehosted. When it comes to cost optimization, that's an area that is pretty close to Crayon as a company, and we have the cost optimization in our DNA, basically. So for us, it goes without saying that we pay special attention to right-sizing the resources in the cloud, to license optimization, if applicable, and we also have services that we propose to the customers that are continuously identifying different cost optimization opportunities. And finally, the migration methodology needs to be demonstrated, and it's very important in the assess and mobilize phase to show that the different assessment exercises and workshops have been performed, namely in the assess phase. So different exercises and workshops have been done, including the migration readiness assessment, business case justification, TCO analysis, etc. While in the mobilize phase, the focus is on building the landing zone, the plans for mobilizing pilot workloads to the cloud, along with creating project plans and producing skill gap analysis to help the customer build a center of excellence and drafting a right cloud operating model. So as we have already mentioned, we have obtained the migrations competency. So Crayon is an AWS migrations partner. And currently we are in a limited number of partners worldwide that have both the migrations competency and are in the top tier of the AWS partnership, which is a premier tier status. Apart from the migrations competency, we have 4 additional competencies, including machine learning, IoT, Windows workloads, etc. And we have also several partner program designations. For this story, it's important to say that we are a well-architected partner, because well-architected reviews are mandatory in the migrations projects and in the mobilize phase. So why migrate with an AWS partner. So Mari has covered most of the points. So I will try. When we take into consideration the mentioned aspects from the previous slide, when we migrate with a validated AWS migrations competency partner, we as a customer, or the customer, is left in good hands. So it's been taken care of pretty well, so to say, with a partner that is well versed in handling different scenarios for different sizes of migration projects. If you're migrating with an AWS migrations partner, it means also that the partner of your choice has a proven track record, has a validated track record of a number of successful migration projects. That partner is also bound to already have a proven migration methodology that works and that is compatible, or that is adherent to the standards that AWS prescribes. The best practices in migration projects is, so it doesn't mean that so not only will your workloads be migrated according to the security and governance best practices, but also the organizational change that is bound to happen when migrating from on-prem, for example, to the cloud. This organizational change will not be overlooked, and the partner will take care of identifying all different skill gaps and help you build an operating model that fits the cloud needs and ambitions for the customer. And finally, the migration competency partners have access to specific, and I actually must say very generous, migrations funding, for example, like the MAP program that Linus was mentioning. These programs have been made available by AWS for sizable or for larger migration projects. And these partners, the migration partners, have experience when it comes to funding processes and applicability across different phases of the MAP project. So also from that perspective, you can be sure that the fundings and incentives that are available will be fully exploited to make the migration and the transition to the cloud as smooth as possible, also from the cost perspective. Yeah, our migration methodology is part of the cloud adoption framework that Linus was showing, but we have split the migration itself to several phases, and depending on the level of expertise in the AWS cloud in the customer's teams, we can adjust the methodology accordingly. So, but however, we always start with assessing the workloads. And when it comes to the migration readiness assessment, we evaluate the current state, and we identify the priorities, we identify the gaps, and based on the cloud adoption framework by AWS, in the MRA, we evaluate cloud readiness on 8 different dimensions. So we evaluate the landing zone, operating model, security and compliance, migration process experience, skills and center of excellence, migration plans, and business plans. And usually we execute the migration readiness assessment workshop through a one-day workshop, which we conduct as a partner together with AWS. And when it comes to the outcome or the preparation that we do in this phase, it helps us define the scope for later phases, namely for the planning phase. And in the planning phase, Crayon will collaborate with the customer to build a foundation for the migration itself. And we have also the aim to obtain and gain experience in just migrating and operating some initial workloads on AWS for the cloud. This is just to demonstrate the value of the cloud quickly, and to demonstrate that what we have identified in the previous phase is actually working. We are doing this with an agile approach, and we also set the foundation for the cloud center of excellence, the landing zone, and the operational model, security and compliance with the customer. And then we proceed as the final stage of this phase to proceed to build a solid migration plan and the business case that is also articulating the TCO and the ROI for the entire migration. And when this phase is completed, which is usually within several months, you, as the customer, will be ready to migrate at scale. Finally, in the migration phase, we execute the migration plan developed earlier in the previous phase. And the unique aspect of this phase is we are trying to establish what we call a migration factory, which is composed of teams and tools and processes to streamline the movement of workloads from outside of AWS into AWS. And the migration factory, as we call it, is all about collaboration. It is dependent on the teamwork of ours and our customers, and on a prioritized backlog of workloads and migration patterns that we have identified in the discovery or in the planning process. So once you have migrated your first workloads to the cloud, you can focus on migrating more, and you can focus on optimizing the applications, optimizing the processes, operations, and the cost or the expenses later. What is really specific for Crayon is that we are actually one of the few partners of AWS that was recognized for the potential and the global reach to grow and accelerate the cloud adoption and the cloud consumption for our customers. So together with AWS, we've had this vision to create the CCOE, or Cloud Center of Excellence, on AWS as a separate and dedicated department. This idea comes from our vision to accelerate the cloud adoption. And this dedicated department is centralized, it sits in Crayon Group, and it has a strategic role to make all the knowledge on AWS, the expertise and technical and also business knowledge globally available to our countries. And as I said, our AWS CCOE is a centralized team. It has different knowledge and guidance bases for that we make available through training and through continuous communication to our countries. And one of the most important parts, and I'm going to focus on in the final part of my presentation, is that the technical teams in the CCOE, they are also in charge of developing the solution accelerators for faster AWS adoption. These solution accelerators are basically reusable reference architectures that can be deployed in many different scenarios, in many different industries, and they can significantly shorten the time to cloud. And what are they? The AWS, Crayon AWS architected accelerators. Sorry, they're built using automate everything as a driving principle. So all the solutions are fully scripted. They're written in Terraform, which we chose as our multi-cloud ready infrastructure as a code tool. They are all built with reusable and modular components. So meaning that if we have a solution that can cover like a general broader need, but we have a customer case or a customer scenario where they need just part of it, we can do that pretty easily. But also, if we need to combine several accelerators into one implementation, we can also do that, because they can pretty much shorten time to a cloud POC, for example, for an IoT application, which we have developed from several months to just a couple of weeks. All of these solutions are validated and approved by a dedicated AWS partner principal solution architect. So when it comes to the validation, it starts soon. It starts with validating the idea. So our CCOE team comes up with an idea for an accelerator, for example, and then they draft the first solution and then present it to the AWS principal solution architect. And they say, okay, this could work. This could be used in or reused in various different scenarios. So please proceed to developing this solution. Once it's developed, the first version is developed, it's again sent to review, and then AWS reviews it, gives us feedback, and then we incorporate the feedback, and it's finally approved by AWS to be used in real life customer scenarios. And we want to use them at first as much as possible in many different customers, in many different scenarios, just to make sure that it's working as planned, but also to gather the feedback from the field, gather the understanding of how the customers have reacted to these solutions. And finally, this all should result in a unified solution library of accelerators that can be reusable at scale as in the form of acceleration and enablement kits. We have also produced a significant or extensive documentation for all of these solutions, and the plans are to make them available through different channels, including AWS Marketplace, to make them available globally. So just to mention some of the domains. So we have now more than 20 approved solutions, but they're coming from a smaller number of domains, let's say, or use cases. And we can really say now that if our customers need help accelerating or automating any of the following domains and services in AWS, we have a solution ready to demonstrate the benefits quickly. So we started with the landing zone. Then we have solutions that can cover or automate identity and access management best practices, single sign-on, IoT, DevOps, containers, backups, etc. Finally, what I would like to mention in the end is our AWS Landing Zone Accelerator. It's a well-architected solution. It covers most of the checkboxes in the well-architected framework of AWS, and we use it to start all our migration projects. So instead of having to rebuild or build from scratch, we can say to our customers that we have a ready solution that can fit most of the needs and can be deployed rather in terms of days rather than taking a lot longer time and consultancy hours to make a well-architected landing zone. So we want to demonstrate the value of the AWS cloud quickly, and we want to make sure that we are migrating securely the first workloads into AWS. And so far, we have used it in migration in different sizes of migrations. We have used it just to prove a POC, basically, for data backup, small POC, but we also use this same landing zone to get around 750 VMs to the cloud on top of this landing zone. So it doesn't matter really the size of the migration or the scenarios. And finally, we use it to, as I mentioned briefly, to decrease the migration cost bubble that usually comes up in the initial phases, and it's usually due to a lot of consultancy hours that are needed to set everything up. So what we bring to the table here is that we can deploy this rather fast and have everything up and running in terms of days. And what it actually is, it's as I mentioned, it's a well-architected landing zone with clear separation of duties, with security best practices, with governance, account governance best practices that are already built into this solution. And whatever you build on top, because it has separated workload accounts, whatever you build on top, it inherits the best practices set up by the landing zone. And yeah, that will be all from my end for today. I'm looking forward to any questions.
Yeah, thank you very much, Milos, for a great presentation and giving the audience explanation why it's important to work with a partner. Especially my take out from this presentation is that it's basically because of the experience that is collected on the partner side. But I have a question with regards of solution accelerators, because you have mentioned a couple of times that it might save time and cost for the customer during the migration project. So do you have any kind of hard data in order to a little bit kind of prove how much it's possible to save time and costs for the customer?
Well, in terms of time, yes. So it also depends on the level of expertise that the customer has in-house. But if they would have to build the landing zone themselves, starting from scratch with limited AWS knowledge in-house, it could take even up to a month to get everything up and running according to the best practices, and go through different iterations, go through maybe a review with somebody with more experience. It can take even more than a month. For our solution, it takes a couple of days, basically, and a couple of days means usually we are waiting for the customer to get us the input parameters, such as like the deployment scenarios, so how they want to deploy the script, but also to provide the certain email addresses or aliases for different accounts that we have in the solution. So, but the deployment itself takes probably just an hour, maybe two.
Okay, thanks a lot. And also one question from my end with regards of landing zone itself. So because it was pointed out a couple of times that this is something that we suggest to start from. And could you a little bit elaborate why it is so much important to start with a proper landing zone deployment?
Well, it's, as I mentioned, it's a well-architected solution. It has clear separation of duties in terms of accounts. For security account is separate, logging account is separate, workloads accounts are separated, etc., etc. And if you don't have your foundation set up the proper way from the beginning, and start migrating or start building some POCs, and all of a sudden you're running production on that account, it gets much more difficult to change things later than just starting with this solution. And when I said that it's fit for all sizes of projects, I mostly meant that the landing zone solution itself that we have doesn't generate much cost, and all the cost that is generated is basically when it comes to logging the activities within the account. So approximately it generates around $15 per month on average, and even less if it's a smaller project.
It absolutely makes sense. So basically, it's kind of foundation for the rest of the workloads that you are going to migrate to the cloud platform.
Yes.
Is that probably correct expression of or explanation of the landing zone, what it's all about? And last question from my side is with regards of your experience, what kind of workloads Crayon so far did migrate for various customers?
Okay, so we have a lot of experience with migrating Windows workloads, for example. We have several very big public reference cases on SAP migrations. Yeah, so probably I would say Windows and SAP migrations are most of our references, but we have done also mainframe migrations. Yeah, so I wouldn't say that we are limited when it comes to expertise that much.
Okay, thank you very much. And this is exactly great time to move on with the one real case study, which I would like to spend a couple of minutes and to discuss and walk you through, because just The project is still ongoing, and we started actually this project a little bit less than 2 years ago. And this is exactly a very good example of the proper migration of such a workloads like SAP to AWS. And I'm glad to share a couple of slides. So basically, we are talking here about Lietuvos geležinkeliai. It's Lithuanian Railways. And a couple of words about the company itself. So it's really a very large logistic company in the region, basically, and one of the biggest cargo organization or business here. As you can see on the slide, it has at the moment around 9,000 employees, and the group itself consists of 8 companies, and so on and so forth. But what is important that Lithuanian Railways a couple of years ago set a very clear strategic goal to move to the cloud. And the reason was basically to optimize operations of the IT, optimize the IT infrastructure. And basically over the 5 years, they set the goal to migrate up to 90% of the existing environment to the public cloud. But what is the difference and why it's a really very interesting project on which we are working on is because the customer chose multi-cloud approach. It wasn't like a selection of this single cloud vendor, like, for example, AWS or Microsoft Azure. It was multi-cloud. And it gave to the customer very good options to not only compare, but really build the business cases depending on the workloads that they are considering to migrate to the cloud, and then to compare business cases, TCO, the technology and the features of each public cloud, and then decide on the full set of different aspects to migrate the specific workload to the specific public cloud. And I'm really glad that it was set, the approach set was that customer and Crayon was working as a partners. And of course, it wouldn't be possible to make such a project successful without AWS experts who also helped a lot throughout the journey of the migration of the SAP ERP to the AWS cloud platform, or, for example, work on the web applications modernization. So also what is important to mention that throughout this event, we discussed a lot about cloud adoption framework, about availability of migration acceleration program from the AWS. And this is exactly proof that such a cooperation between all the parties, the customer, cloud platform provider, and the partner works very, very well, because we exactly follow the cloud adoption framework, and we attach to that also MAP program. So after for the assessment and for all the TCOs, for the migration readiness assessment, for the immersion workshops, etc., we've been working as a team, and we got also quite significant actually investments to the customer from the AWS, because AWS team also was very much had very much interest into having the successful migration project here happening for the customer. And then, of course, during Mobilize phase, we did a lot of POCs, because we had to actually analyze in a very detailed way the architecture designs, all the dependencies, and test the technology and solutions that have been agreed and added into the roadmap. And once the piloting has been done, of course, we moved on with the migration. In some cases, it was just a migration of the data, because we deployed the new services with the EC2 instances and so on and so forth. But mainly speaking, exactly overall, the project started from the properly deployed AWS landing zone. And once it has been done, then we actually moved on with all the piloting and migration of the specific workloads. Now customer is also benefiting from after the migration, basically. And once the migrated workloads already up and running and in the production, now customer is benefiting of the additional incentives that are coming from AVS in the way of credits that are applied for the specific customer account. So this is really the way how in such a cloud journey joint approach from the customer side, cloud platform provider and partner might make the migration project much more easy, I would say, and really cost effective and really successful. So this is a case study that I wanted actually to highlight here today. And here, unfortunately, Marius Taponas couldn't join today's event because he has ongoing event where he also have to participate. But this is the very good, I would say, expression of why AVS, this is his quote. The answer is that AVS and partner Crayon are delivering on their promise to go with us together through the cloud journey. And it is extremely important that you would do your critical workloads together with your partners like AVS and Crayon, as this would ensure that your team would learn how to embrace cloud platform and would be motivated. So don't do it alone. So this is exactly very good thought. Don't do it alone. Ask help, and we are happy, and we are here, and we are happy to support you throughout your journey. With that, I would like to switch to small conversation because I think we still have a couple of minutes left. And I would like to ask our dear presenters one provocative question, frankly speaking, because recently on the market, I see a lot of concerns, let's put this way, that due to turbulent times and due to the kind of price increase of the energy resources, there are some speculations on the market that it might be that cloud service providers going to increase prices. So what are your thoughts? Should we somehow prepare for such a thing, or it's not really yet gonna happen? Anyone would like to address that question? Marin, Milos, what do you think?
I believe that there will be more and more options for cost optimization rather than just increasing the prices. And also, I must say that companies like Crayon that have been doing this since the very beginning, have been doing the cost optimization for the customer since the very beginning of the company, that we can have the ways and means to find the cost optimization opportunities in these kind of times.
Right, thank you very much. Marin, actually, AVS did price reduction basically this year again. It was, I think, 109th times done so far. So have you heard anything about is this going to be sustainable and it's going to be continued or not really?
Well, as you know, AWS is going towards sustainability, so we are trying to utilize more and more renewable energy resources for our data centers, and we have some specific exact public available plans for that when we plan to move all our data centers towards that goal. And in that regards, we are working with customers in of course, moving forward, trying to avoid this energy crisis and not to have it spill over to the customers. So, yeah.
Exactly, makes sense. Thanks a lot. And one more question that also bothers a lot of organizations and customers, because we're also having a lot of requests and questions coming from the various sides of the businesses. What to do with the business continuity and disaster recovery? because suddenly business finally realized that there is no safe place, especially in Europe. So from that perspective, what would be your thoughts? Because typically customers are asking, could you do that disaster recovery solution deployed within a week? So what are your thoughts? Is this possible?
For me or for Milos?
Let's start with you, Mine. What do you think?
Yeah. So really, of course, as you do know, AWS offers multiple availability zones within the regions and multiple regions within on the global scale. So definitely we can deploy multiple different types of disaster recovery scenarios depending what the customer wants. How complex or easy it will be, it actually really depends on the workloads that we want to make resilient to any kind of type of disaster recovery. So any kind of unfortunate event. So yeah, it can be done in a week, but sometimes it can take much more than that. Really, it really depends on the service and application that you want to make resilient to such, let's say, regional event happening in Europe or anything else. But definitely it is possible. So we have tools, we have knowledge, we have partners that can do that for the customers. But again, I wouldn't say it always will take just a week. It is actually just a click in the console, but it requires lots of planning and testing before it can be really pushed into production. So yeah, again, I would say depending on the workload.
I believe exactly the planning gonna take a little bit more time rather than the week. But Milos, maybe with the accelerators, we can actually somehow help our customers to streamline the process and make it faster.
That is correct, and that is one thing. And the other thing is as you said, and I have to agree, is the planning part, where when it comes to migrations that we discussed here today, the planning on how we want to set up and how we want to architect the workloads in the cloud is crucial, and we have to take into consideration. And as I mentioned, that's something that all the migrations partners are audited against, is the fault tolerance and the availability and the disaster recovery capabilities of the applications. So you need to showcase that's been taken care of early in the process.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Milos, Marin. It was very insightful. Thank you for your presentations. I hope the audience also enjoyed the presentations, the stories that we told. And just a reminder that if you would like to, again, watch this webinar, or you would like to suggest your colleagues, your friends to watch it later after this event, please don't hesitate to reach us out. And yes, the content gonna be available after the completion of the event. With that, I would like to thank you for those who stayed till the very end, and to wish you a great and pleasant rest of the day and rest of the week. Thank you very much, and goodbye.
Goodbye.